Hey everyone, welcome to Find Your Flow. I am Natalie and today we have a speed yoga practice for the hips. We can't look at the hips though without zooming in on the glutes as well. This whole area works together very much to support the hip joint. So hop on your mat and I'll meet you there. We'll start our practice lying down on the ground, but just before we go down to the mat, if you do have any yoga bricks or anything that you could use as an at-home version, Tupperware boxes, dumbbells, water bottles, whatever, then just feel free to pause the video and grab some of those now. Not a necessity, but it will support us as we progress in our practice. And then making your way down to the ground, we'll just spend a few moments settling into where we are. Just coming to really feel the ground beneath us as some really sturdy support for our practice. Close down the eyes and just let the tension melt away from the face, the shoulders rolling away from the ears, softening towards our mat. And come to notice what you've brought with you to the mat today. And as we zoom in today on the hips and glute space in particular, we're going to be strengthening but also finding a little length in the tissues and muscles around this area. And we're not really going to be focusing too much on the nitty-gritty anatomical terms and names for all of the muscles. Instead, we're just looking to build a real awareness around this space and look to create strength whilst also tapping into the flexibility of these tissues to help create that mobile and stable hip joint that we are looking. We're looking to find that balance in between this super strong and the super flexible. So that's what we'll be working on in our short practice today. Just finding 3 more natural breaths here. In through the nose, out through the nose. Start to slow things down just slightly. Bringing a consciousness to your breath. And as we start to add some movement into our practice, just being aware of anything that we might be holding on to, whether it's a more long-term, more short-term injury, niggle, tightness, tension, just being aware and then to listen to what's going on and then respond in a way that works for you. So fluttering your eyes open, we'll walk our feet to parallel, hands down, pressing either sides of the torso, and just walk the feet a little bit closer towards you if they are quite far out, so that we can really press through the soles of the feet and the palms to help peel our tailbone off the mat. And then let the lower back reach off, then the mid back. But rather than lifting into a full bridge pose where we really open through the front chain of our body, we're just going to lift enough so that we can feel an engagement and an activation in the glutes. And rather than keeping everything super rock hard, solid and tight, that can create some compression in the SI joint and the sacrum. So we're looking to keep it active and engaged without this clenching motion. So think about pressing through the hands and the feet to help activate rather than clench. And find one more breath here. And then slowly roll spine back down onto the ground. We'll lift 2 more times. Moving with your breath, lifting up, just peeling the tailbone off, then the lower back, mid back, just to that more of a halfway point. And take your hands to your glutes if you like to, as a reminder that they aren't gripping super tight, but still very active. And then releasing, rolling down, and then lifting all the way or halfway back up. Nice, just stay there. 1 full breath and soften. We're going to lift now to a tabletop, so either just roll to one side and press up, or hands to the hamstrings, chin towards the chest, and rock and roll up and down the length of the spine. And the reason that the hips and the glutes are bunched together in this practice is because they're very connected. In order to create a stable hip joint, we need to help to strengthen and find space in all of the muscles around this area. So that includes the glute muscles and the collection of hip muscles. Jumping forwards into our tabletop, we'll just warm up through the spine, always super important whatever practice we're doing. So imagine we're pressing the ground away through the palms, roll tailbone down, lift the spine, drop the gaze into cat pose. Moving with your breath, lifting through the tailbone, roll the belly down, heart opens forward to cow. Just a couple more times, some easy spinal mobility. Just checking in with how the body's generally feeling today. And how everything is very much connected. So the psoas muscle in our hips, the hip flexors, are actually connected to the lower back space. So it's important that we just pay attention and be aware of that. Coming to float to our neutral spine, we'll send our left leg off the mat and reach it out to the side. So being mindful here, as we lift the left knee, we're not collapsing into the right side straight away. The rest of the body stays nice and active. Start to draw circles with that left knee. Imagine you've taken a pencil to your kneecap and you're trying to carve a nice line through space. Send your circle both directions. And then coming back to just lift the knee out to the side, keeping the foot active, mindful that the foot's not lifting to the sky, so keeping it in line with the knee. We'll check in with strengthening and the really small glute muscles. The gluteus maximus, you've probably heard of, likes to take over often and do a lot of the work. So we're going to check in with this much smaller muscles here that often don't get a lot of attention. So releasing knee down towards the ground, let it hover off, and then open knee, lift up to the side. Bring it down and lift. One more time, down and lift. Awesome. Step that left foot forwards. We'll come to a low lunge. Taking the feet about hips distance apart, rise all the way up. Hands float to the hips and lifting out of our lower body. So we're not just sinking down and collapsing into the hip flexors. We're really keeping this active. Thinking about left thigh drawing back towards the left hip crease, right thigh drawing forwards towards the right hip crease. Lots of activation going on in the legs. Just take the hands here for a moment, find a breath, and then release. Both palms come to the ground and we step back to tabletop. Feel free to give the hips a little wiggle in between. And then come back to your sturdy all fours as we reach the right knee out to the side. And again, mindful that we're not straight away collapsing into that left side. Keeping the arms long, left leg pressing to the ground actively. From here, take the right knee in nice big circles. Just start to find an openness and a space in the hip joints. Send your circles the opposite direction. Don't worry if the circles aren't super big. We're just looking to explore the movement that we have today. Bringing that knee out to the side, mindful the foot isn't lifting up and doing all the work, keeping it active, toes towards the shin. We'll lower knee to hover off the ground and then lift up to the side. A couple more times. Awesome. Staying there, knee lifted, and then step that foot round and forwards. Lifting up and out, reach the hands, and then soften them to the hips. And just being aware if one side feels very different to the other. It's very common to have an imbalance. In fact, probably everyone does in some way. So one side might feel stronger than the other, might feel more flexible, but rather than that judgment mind coming in and taking over, we're just looking to meet ourselves where we are. So find one more breath here. And then release. Hands come down, we step back. This time take the knees nice and wide, toes together, and soften the hips fully to the heels in a child's pose. We'll option to take an active child's pose, so gently wiggle the hips as they stay heavy down towards the ground. And then lifting up here, bring the knees to parallel, tuck the toes under and sit the hips back. Really reach the arms forward, press into the palms, tailbone drives towards the sky in a downward facing dog. And keep your down dog nice and soft. Paddle through the heels. Keep that tailbone tilting up towards the sky. And then notice what's going on with the breath. Nice, so we can stay in our down dog or come down to our tabletop. What we'll do is float our left leg off the mat, bend the knee, and step our foot forward. So we'll come either into our lunge with the knee lifted or knee on the ground. And if the knee is on the ground, then I invite you to lift it up, meet us here. And float hands to the hips as we really drive down through that left foot and rise into a high lunge. So notice if the feet were too wide apart or too close together, then we might just need to adjust this here. Just find whatever works for you. Front knee stays over the front ankle. Keep drawing left hip crease back, right hip crease forward. This activation in the center, creating this stable, sturdy hip space. Find one more breath here. And then step the right foot forwards. And we'll sit straight back in a chair pose. Palms come together in front. Checking in with our foundation so that the toes are tracking forwards. Knees softly bending over the toes. Mindful that the hips, the pelvis isn't tilting too far forwards or too far back. Coming to find this space right in the center so it's nice and long and in alignment with the spine. From here, take the weight over towards the left leg and just peel that right heel off the ground. We'll then start to glide the right leg back. Toes just touch the earth. And then glide them forwards again. Nice. Trying to keep most of the weight in this left side. Again, just being mindful that we aren't dumping into this left hip. Keep it nice and active, engaging the muscles rather than collapsing into the joint. Float back, float forwards. Next time you float back, stay there. Hover the toes off the ground, just an inch or so. Don't forget to breathe. And from there, bend this right knee and lift it up in front. We're finding some strength, but also pairing it up with that length in our hip flexor. Finding that equal balance, that stability that we're looking for. Sending right toes back, let them kiss the ground or hover off. And then bending the knee up in front. Nice. We'll do that one more time. Bending the knee up in front. Take a breath here. Remember, the wall is always our best friend in our standing postures, so use any support you'd like. And then everybody step the right toes behind us. We'll bring our hands, if we have them, down onto our bricks. That's if we have our bricks, not if we have hands. I'm assuming we have hands. So bringing the hands onto either the hips or the bricks and floating the weight into the left leg fully as we reach that right leg off behind us. We're looking to keep the back heel pressing away so the leg's nice and active, and just being mindful that we aren't uneven in our hip space. So we're not dropping down or opening too far out to the side. We're looking to keep the hips nice and stable here in the center. Our right leg doesn't have to lift super high. Keep the chest open, find one more breath. And then release and step the right toes to the ground. Rise into your high lunge. Reach the hands for the sky, take a deep breath in. And then release, hands to the earth, step back. Downward dog or tabletop. Just choose your own adventure here. Take a full breath in. Loving breath out. And then either from down dog or tabletop, reach the right leg off the mat. Bend the knee and step the foot forward. If you're in that tabletop and the knee's on the ground, and I invite you just to tuck the toes and lift the knee off. Then from here, making sure the feet are where is comfortable for you. We'll drive down through that right foot and press our way into our high lunge with the hands on the hips. Awesome. Just being aware of this space and all of the muscles that are turning on, engaging, in order to keep us strong here. Find one more breath. And then stepping this left foot forwards into our chair pose, reaching arms wide and high, palms come together in Anjali Mudra. Just take a moment to really feel supported in your chair pose, pressing down into the feet, spreading through the toes. We'll then take our weight over towards our right leg. Hands come to the hips as we peel the left heel off the ground. Start to glide the left toes back, keeping them on the earth to begin with, and then forwards. And we'll do that a couple more times. Just getting used to the idea of shifting the weight. And again, just noticing what's going on around this glute area, the hip space. If you want to, you can take the hand there as just a gentle reminder of what's going on. The next time you send the left leg back, stay there and just allow the left toes to float off the mat an inch. And then bringing this left knee up in front to rise, strengthen and lengthen the hip flexor as we step back. Either hover off or kiss the toes down on the ground. We'll do that a couple more times, lifting all the way up and stepping back. Last time, lift up. And then everybody toes to the earth. Bringing our hands down onto our bricks if we have them. And floating weight fully to the right leg as the left leg glides off. And we keep pressing away through that left heel, activating all of this space around the right hip to keep us super stable here. This helps to prepare us for our warrior three. Maybe one day we lift off. Maybe we're there already. For now, we're just going to use the support, if we have it, to help us to create that real foundation for our warrior three to grow from, so that we can just be a little more aware of the movements that we make when we're making them and everything that goes into them within our body. Nice, finding one more breath here. And then gently stepping back, high lunge, reaching through the hands. Take a deep breath and release fully. Hands to the ground, everybody step back to a child's pose. Option here to find that more active child's pose, just give the hips a little wiggle. Nice. Reaching up, we'll scoop the legs to one side and come to lie down on the ground. Taking a super nice stretch out now. We'll start by bringing the soles of the feet together, opening the knees out wide, and just being here in our Supta Badakanasana, reclined bound angle pose. If you know that you'd like some form of prop underneath the outer legs, then please just take some support here for maybe blankets or pillows. Just being mindful that our lower back space stays on the earth. Allow the hands to rest wherever they feel most comfortable. Gorgeous. Find one more breath. And then use the hands to gently bring the knees back toward one another. Walk the feet to parallel and keep that left foot planted as we cross the right ankle over the top of the left thigh. Coming into our reclined pigeon. So either staying here, we might very much feel something in the glute and in the hip. We might not want to go any further. Or we can interlace the hands around the left hamstring and bring that left shin so it's parallel to the sky. Keeping both feet active so we're not collapsing into the ankle joint. And just being mindful if either the hips or the head, neck and shoulders are curling off. If they are, that's just an invitation to just bring that foot down and stay here for today. To add on a little, make sure that we're really bringing that left thigh up and in towards the chest whilst keeping the lower back on the earth. And just breathing into this nice release in the piriformis. Find one more breath here. And then release. Nice. We'll come straight over to the other side. So right foot plants, crossing the left ankle over the top of the right thigh. Either staying here or interlacing hands around the back of the right hamstring, lifting the shin parallel to the sky. And just being aware if one side does feel really different to the other, just treating it accordingly, listening and responding to what's going on in your body, easing off, or taking it a little deeper with the help of your breath. One more breath here. And then release completely. Bringing both feet to the mat, walking them nice and wide towards the edges. And we'll roll the knees to the left side. Windscreen wiper up through center and over towards the right. I'm just moving a couple more times here, side to side, keeping it super soft and easy. Awesome. And then making your way back to center, hugging both knees up and in towards you. Take a soft rock. Just slowing your breath down a little more. As we come to our final and most precious resting posture in Shavasana. Just snuggle into a comfortable space for you. Now, you might want to stay here a little longer. Feel free to do so if you have the time. If not, we'll just spend 3 full breaths in this rest, closing down the eyes and giving thanks and appreciation for taking the time, for being here. Notice how the hip area feels. And then smile, curling up the corners of the mouth. Let this be a thank you to your amazing body, your amazing self. Either staying here a while longer or bringing palms together at the heart. I thank you so much for joining me. From my heart to yours, namaste.